Hello and welcome. Today we're going to make a little light bulb toy for our cat friends. Mine is a little burnt out light bulb today. Yours doesn't have to be. You could use some yellow yarn up there to make it look like it's glowing, or just go all white if you want it to look like it's just not in use at the moment. Now, you don't have to use light bulb colors at all. They could be whatever colors you want, but the things that you will need to make one of these today are an optional jingle ball, one of those little hard plastic jingle balls. You could just use stuffing, you don't have to put one in there. I just thought it was funny for a burnt out light bulb. You want a 4mm crochet hook. You want some yarn needles. You're gonna want a pair of scissors. You're gonna need some kind of stuffing. It doesn't have to be polyfill, you can use whatever you want. There's my hook. You're gonna want maybe some optional catnip, totally up to you guys if you want to give your cats catnip or not. And then worsted weight yarn in whatever colors you like. I used just the dark gray for the top, white for the main part of the light bulb, and then a little sparkly light silver worsted weight yarn for the bottom, RIP big twist yarn. Anyway, I think that's everything. I will talk you through the pattern as we go. So let's get started. I'm gonna start with a dark gray color, but you can do any color you want. Maybe you're going right for like white to make it look like a light bulb that's not on, or yellow to make it look like a light bulb that is on. I'm going for the dark gray to start with, just so that it looks like an old burnt out light bulb at the top. So we're going to cross our long end over our short end, hold in where they cross to make our magic circle. We're going through the front of the loop. We're going to grab the yarn, pull it up, and we're going to do that one more time through that little loop you just made. So there's our magic circle. Now we're going to make 6 single crochets into that circle. So you want to work down whichever side has your 2 strands. So if you're lefty, you're going the opposite direction. So for our single crochet, we're going in, you're going to wrap our yarn, pull it up. That gives you 2 loops on your hook. You wrap and you pull through both of those. So we're going to keep going until we have 6. Now that you have those 6 single crochets, we're going to take that short end from our circle and we're going to pull on it to bring that circle closed. So now your stitches come together like a little Pac-Man. We're going to find our very first, the top of our very first single crochet there, and we're going in, and we are going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to grab that yarn, we're pulling it through the one we just wiggled our way into, and then through that last loop from our other side. Okay, so now we are going to chain 1, and for round 2 we're going to have 2 single crochets in each stitch. So we're increasing. This is going to take us from those 6 plain single crochets to 12 for this round. So to increase, we're going right back into that same place to make another single crochet, and we're doing that all the way around. So we're going to go in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook, and into that same spot again. Same thing. So you can see there's 2 stitches in those 2 spots. We're going to keep going until you have 12, and I'll meet you at the end of the round. So we've finished round 2. We're going to do the same thing we did on that last round, where we're finding our very first stitch and we're going to slip stitch to join that to our very last stitch, and then we'll chain 1. So this one's going to be a little bit different. First things first, we're going to turn this over, grab your yarn needle, and we're going to thread our yarn needle on there and just make a little knot here. Okay, so we've got that needle threaded on. We're going to grab a leg of that first round, just trying to make sure that we only have like one little piece of yarn there, so our knot is pretty much invisible and it'll stay on the inside of the toy. And then we're just going to pull it and make it as tight as you can. That way it won't come undone, and then eventually we'll trim this back a little bit, but it can just kind of float around for now. So to work round 3, again, as I was saying, it's going to be just a little bit different. To create that like blown out light bulb look, we are going to be alternating between this color and our white color. So we're going to single crochet in that very first stitch, but then before we finish that stitch, so we're going to leave those 2 loops there, and we're going to attach our white yarn. And because everything's staying on the inside, there is an inside to this piece rather than like a sweater where you would have to maybe do this a little differently. We are just going to tie it. So if I leave my hook in when I do this, that way I know that I'm not losing the stitches or making them too tight or too loose where the yarn attaches. It'll stay kind of perfectly right there. Okay, so to finish this stitch, we're going to switch to the white. So we're pulling through both of those, and now our next one is going to be an increase stitch. So we're going to go in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2, and then we're going to start our second one. We're going to wrap, pull up the 2, but we're going to finish it with the gray yarn because our next stitch is going to be back to the gray. So we're alternating between a plain single crochet and 2 single crochets in the next stitch, but we are switching yarn colors as we go. So the single crochets by themselves will be the gray yarn, and the single crochet 2s will be the white. So just keep doing that all the way around. When you get to the end, we'll meet back up to change color one more time and keep going. For round 4, our last increase round, we'll be working with just the white yarn, so we can go ahead and trim away the gray. And then we're going to do the same thing we did when we added the white color on, where we're just going to tie it to the other yarn. So just moving that stuff out of our way and keeping our knots toward the inside of the toy so they're not kind of making the front look bulky or strange. We'll keep that hook in there again. We don't want to make it too tight, but we do want to bring it all the way to where that yarn's resting. That way it'll hide itself nicely. So we're going to slip stitch to join. Again, that very first stitch with the very last stitch. And we'll chain 1. And so for this last increase round, we're going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches, just plain single crochet. And then in the 3rd stitch, we'll have that increase. And we're repeating this pattern all the way around. So we've got 1, and then 1 more plain, and then the increase. So 2 plain single crochets followed by 1 single crochet 2. I know that sounds confusing, but it's 2 singles and then an increase. Ooh, and then we are going to slip stitch to join at the end of the round. When you finish that round, the next 3 are just plain single crochet. So you're just going to do 1 stitch per stitch each thing around, so you'll end up with 24. And you'll slip stitch at the end of each, you'll chain the beginning of each. So finish this one and then keep going for 5, 6, and 7, working plain, and then we'll meet back together for round 8. Okay, we finished round 7. This is a good opportunity here to kind of just trim back all these little extra tails that are in there. We don't want to cut them too short because we don't want to risk them coming untied, but we can definitely make them like about as short as the toy is tall. And you're just putting those off to the side. Maybe you save all your little trimmings for stuffing. Maybe you just do whatever you want with them. So we are going to be decreasing for this next one. So we're going to single crochet plain single all by themselves single crochets in the first 2 stitches, and then we'll single crochet 2 together for the next 2. So these 2 stitches, so we're going to grab the front loops only of both of them together. So we're going through one and then the next one. So you've got those. So we're going to wrap, we're going to pull through both of those. So now you have just 2 loops on the hook like you would for a regular single crochet. We'll wrap and pull through there. We're going to do that again. So 2 plain, 1 and 1, and then working the next 2 together. Once we're just repeating this all the way around. Once we finish it, we'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then those next 2 rows, rows 9 and 10, are going to be plain single crochets all the way around. So each stitch just gets its own individual stitch, and that will take you down to 18 stitches in the round. So go ahead and finish up this decrease round, finish up those 2 plain rounds, and we will get back together for our next step. Okay, we've got those first 10 rounds down. The next step is going to be, you have a choice of 2 options. You can put a little jingle ball inside, so you're going to have to like work a little bit since we already started to decrease. but it will fit exactly in there. Any of the the little like Dollar Tree jingle bells, you can get them. They're like a 6-pack for $1.25 at Dollar Tree, so pretty inexpensive, and you can pretty much find them at any place that has little cat toys. You can get these little jingle balls. So we are, maybe you're just jamming that in there and keeping going from there, or maybe you don't have a jingle ball, or you just don't want to use it for whatever reason. You can just add stuffing and fill up the top with stuffing here. And if you're doing catnip, you could add your catnip at the top and then put your stuffing in and then keep going. Totally up to you. Doesn't matter to me. I think the jingle ball is funny just because it's supposed to look like a burnt out light bulb, and if you're old enough to remember before everything was LED bulbs, light bulbs used to have this little thing called a filament in them. So if you're not old enough, I'll explain it to you. They would have a little thing called a filament, and when the light bulb was done, the filament would fall off, and you'd pick up your light bulb to see whether or not it was good by just gently shaking it. And if you heard the little rattle in there, you knew the light bulb was done. Then sometimes if you had like a power surge, if you had lost power, nowadays you don't have to worry about it, but you used to have to turn all your light switches off, because when the power came back on, if your light switches were on in the on position, it would sometimes blow out your light bulbs, and they would get this little blackened part at the top. So that's the whole backstory behind why I've done this here. But you absolutely don't have to, and you don't have to put the ball in at all if you don't want to. Stuffing's perfectly fine. Rant over, moving on. Round 11. So we've chained one. We are going to continue with our decrease here. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in that first stitch, and then we are going to work the next 2 together. So this is going to take us from 18 down to 12. So we're just going 1 and then a decrease, and we're repeating that all the way around. We'll join at the end, we'll chain 1 to get for the next one, and then those next rounds for 12 and 13 are just going to be plain single crochet rounds. So finish your decrease, finish your 2 more plain rounds, and then we'll get back together for the next part. We have finished through rounds 13. We're not going to slip stitch to join the ends yet, because we are going to be changing colors. We will add the tiniest bit of stuffing here just between this opening and the ball. Then we're going to do our catnip, then we're going to add some more stuffing, just kind of fill out this part. Then we'll change colors. So tiny bit of stuffing, whatever kind of stuffing you like. I usually just use polyfill because it's easy and I always have it. But if you're someone who saves your scraps, if you're trust your cat not to try to get the scraps out of there, or if you're not giving it to a cat, feel free to use whatever you like. So then tiniest bit of catnip, more stuffing. When you feel happy with the shape, we'll get back together to change our colors. We're ready for our last color change here. So we're going to tie it on again, leaving our hook in there as we do. So we are keeping the knots toward the inside of the toy and getting them all the way down to where that stitch is. Once you've tied it, maybe give it a little double knot, we'll snip the white away. And then we can tuck those tails into the toy. We will be adding stuffing one more time, so they will get nice and buried in there. But for now, they're just out of the way. Maybe shove them in with the stuffing. Maybe they just kind of float there. As long as you're not accidentally catching them, you're good. Now we can join. And we've got a decrease round here. We're going to be working just a little different than we have in these past rounds, whatever you want to call them. We'll chain 1, and we are going to be working in the back loop only, or kind of creating the little metal thread part that puts the light bulb into the socket. So we're going through the back loop only. So you see our little V shapes there. We had our front we already have had a little fun with earlier for our decreases, but this time we're grabbing the back loop. The first one might be a little bit of a challenge, but after that it'll be a little easier. So we're grabbing that one, and then we're just going to single crochet it like normal once you have that back loop. So you're going through the back loop only, and wrap, pull up. We got 2 on there, wrap, pull through 2. Next one's going to be a little different again. So the decrease will be a little different, and we are getting just the back loops. And because of where these are in relation to your hook and all that, we are going to wrap to pull up. Then we're going into the next one. Same thing, back loop only. We're going to wrap, pull up. So now we've got 3 on our hook. We're going to wrap and pull through all 3. So 2 plain single crochets through the back loop only, and then a single crochet 2 together through the back loop only. And that will take us, well, just repeating that, we've got this one and then 1 more, and that will take us all the way to the end. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we'll get back together for our next round. Okay, we are ready for round 15. For this one, we are still going to be working in the back loops only, but it's just a plain single crochet round. So each stitch gets 1 stitch worked into it, finding that back loop and going all the way around. So you should have 9 stitches around the top. When you get to the end here, we will slip stitch to join. We'll chain 1, and then we've got 1 last decrease round to go. We'll do that one and together, but we'll add a little stuffing at the end of that one. So keep going, finish this one up, join it, chain 1. Let's decrease 1 more round after that. The last decrease round, we are again still going to be working into that back loop only, and this just kind of gives you those little pretend threads on our light bulb there. So finding the back loop, we're going to single crochet 1 into the first stitch, so that one just gets a plain single crochet, and the next one is going to be a single crochet 2 together through the back loops only, and then we're repeating that, so just a plain one and then a decrease all the way around. That's going to take us down to 6 stitches. Before you join, we'll get back together to add that last bit of stuffing, so keep going, I'll see you there. So that was our last round. That one's done. Before we join it and tie it off and all that, we are going to just kind of leave it a little bit open there so that we can put a little bit more stuffing in. And if you need to, if that hole is too small for your fingers, you can always use a pencil or the end of a hook, or you could take your hook out if you need to. Yeah, so we're just filling it up until you're happy with how it looks. At the bottom there, we want enough so that when we weave it closed and pull it closed, it doesn't look empty. We want it to hold its shape a little bit here, but we don't want so much that that thread part comes out and looks a little wider than our light bulb. We want it to be just that little tiniest bit more narrow. We should have created that by going through the back loops only, just that slight look where it looks like it's coming in a little bit. And when you're happy with the amount of stuffing you have, then we'll bring that hook back in if you took it out to use it, and slip stitch to join. From there we can cut this away, leaving like a medium length tail, because we are going to use it to weave the top of the toy closed. And before we do that, we've got to tie it off, so we're going to wrap that yarn over our hook just once, and we're going to pull it through that last loop to create a little knot. So now that that's all done, we will take our yarn needle and thread that tail onto our yarn needle. So to finish off this opening with that yarn needle and the tail threaded on, we're going to go into the first stitch, out through the next, and we're going to do that 2 more times. And on that last one, once we're through, we are going to pull on that tail, and that's going to close that little opening there. We want to make it as snug as we can. And then once you've got that closed off, we're kind of grabbing just a little piece of one of those stitches and making a little simple knot. And we're pulling that knot as close to the toy as possible. And then from there, we are just going to take that tail, and wherever that last knot lays the flattest, you're going to send your little piece of thread back through, putting a little tension on there, so when we snip it off, it'll just pop right back into the toy, and then we are all done. That's it. You finished your light bulb. We got a little light bulb toy here. So hopefully your cat enjoys that. It's got a couple of different elements in there for them to enjoy. Thanks for joining me. Bye.